Okay, so our last classes for the week are going to be dealing with the parable of the laborers in the vineyard, and what we're specifically going to be talking about is what is Jesus saying, right? I mean, if we look at the West and Zwane essay, is Jesus suggesting, right, a socialist perspective, or is it more capitalist, right? And we'll talk a little bit or think a little bit about the American dream and if that falls in line with Jesus' teachings, right? So what I want to begin with is this quote that I have for you on the PowerPoint. I like your Christ. This is Devin Foley. I like your Christ. I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ. Supposedly this comment came from Mahatma Gandhi. The sentiments behind it are expressed quite a bit in our modern culture in a variety of ways. According to the popular narrative, Christ was tolerant and loving while Christians are not. They have corrupted and twisted what Christ was about, primarily love, peace, and tolerance. There can be no doubt that Christ was a revolutionary figure in history, but what if he wasn't always nice? What if he wasn't tolerant or peaceful? Are people actually arguing about what they want Christ to be or what he actually was according to the gospel accounts? More to the point, are they arguing about what they want Christians to be like in a different way, arguing for a Christ that doesn't make them uncomfortable? So the question is, that I have for you guys just to think about, right, has Jesus been sanitized? Has Jesus been toned down, westernized, whitewashed? Why? For what purposes? Right? Is it possible that Jesus, if Jesus were walking around today, would Jesus be continuing to make people feel uncomfortable, specifically religious leaders, right? Would Jesus be challenging norms, and in what ways? And that's what I want us to think about, right? I mean, that's often what prophets and teachers do, great spiritual teachers throughout time. Those people who represent the establishment have often clashed with these great prophet, messiah, gurus. We'll talk a little bit more about that next week as we think about the hero's journey, and we think about Jesus and Muhammad and the Buddha and Krishna and whatnot, or Lao Tzu. So what I've got here are a few statements, right, in line with this that Jesus made. So these are coming from Matthew and Luke specifically. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust consume and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in the heavens where neither moth nor rust consumes and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. No one can serve two masters. You can't serve God and wealth. Luke's Jesus says, sell your possessions and give alms. Make purchase for yourselves that do not wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Right? Then, Luke's Jesus says, he entered the temple and began to drive out those who were selling things there. And he said, this is Jesus. He said, it is written, my house shall be a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers, right? So basically then what Luke is saying that Jesus did is that he walked into the temple and they were selling things in the temple, right? I always think about today, like in, a lot of the mega churches that I've been to, right, there's like a coffee shop and there's a gift shop, right? They're selling paraphernalia. I wonder, right, if back in the day when people were selling things in the temple and Jesus flipped over their tables and he was yelling at them, right, would Jesus do the same thing today? Right? How would Jesus feel about churches selling things, selling whatever, right? T-shirts or books or whatever, and making money off of it? I don't know, right? I mean, that's just it's something to think about. So, and if we were in class, there's a video that I'd have us watch, and we'd sort of debate. For instance, is it okay for pastors to have $1 million homes, right? I mean, is that an okay thing? Because according to Jesus, here's the cost of discipleship, right? Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever comes to me and does not hate father, mother, wife, children, brothers, sisters, yes, even life itself, cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry the cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. We see also with the rich young ruler, right, in this story, this man comes up and basically says, what must I do to inherit the kingdom? And Jesus says, go and sell all you have and give it to the poor, and then come and follow me. That's exactly what Jesus says. So it makes you wonder, right, in my next slide is asking this question, when we think about the American dream and what it represents, what would Jesus say about the American dream, right? Like, we might more easily, because many of us are not Buddhists in my classes, right, we might easily sort of look at the Buddha as renouncing wealth and be able to say, yeah, that's what Buddhist monks do, right? Because Christianity has been the cultural religion here in the United States, often people have more of an affinity to it, right? And are Christians, consider themselves even nominally Christians. And to think about Jesus challenging the American dream almost seems unchristian, right? But what if, right? I mean, right, we think about what the American dream represents, and what does it represent, right? When you think about an American dream, what do you think of? Money, a house, a car, maybe even a boat, right? Possibly a vacation home, all these things. You have 2.5 kids, you've got, you basically have enough wealth to take care of yourself and then some, right? Well, if Jesus says to the rich young ruler, go and sell all you have and give to the poor, right? I mean, does that challenge our ideas of what the American dream are? And maybe Jesus isn't actually, or wouldn't be, if you're walking around today, in favor of pursuing the American dream. Because, unfortunately, what that means is, right, the rich get richer, right? If you have access to those resources, often that means that other nations become poorer, or in order to make the things that we are able to enjoy, right? Like, I think about this right here, right? What that requires is, in another country, someone having to work probably unreasonable hours for wages that are unfair, and yet I don't have to see that. All I get is this product, right? And I use it on a regular basis and don't think about potentially unethical means that went into making that product so that it's affordable for me, right? But there is a balance, right? I mean, if some people are getting richer and only one group of people are getting richer, that often means that there are other people who have limited resources, right? We see that when even in the notions of the first world versus the 2/3 world, right? The rest of the world that is actually impoverished. But anyhow, whose responsibility is it, right? Is it those of us who are believers in a faith tradition? Should we be looking out for them, right? Is that their responsibility? What if they're experiencing these injustices as a result of systemic racism or, various economic issues, right? Different political programs, right? I mean, all things to think about. So I think that sort of moves us into thinking about the readings for today, right? The parable of the laborers in the vineyard, right? So Jesus gives this other parable, right? The kingdom of heaven, he says, is like a landowner who went in early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. So to be clear, when Jesus talks about the kingdom of heaven, he's actually in Greek, it's the kingdom of the heavens. And it's important to note that that Uranos, this was a plural, right? He wasn't just talking about one place called heaven. He was talking about this, how do you say this? Like, the reign of God on earth, right? He was a prophet that came to bring God's reign here and now, right? For instance, in Luke 19, when Jesus was asked where the kingdom of God is, he said it's not a place that you can see. It's not here or there. He said the kingdom of God is within you, right? And this likewise is the kingdom of the heavens, right? It's a way of living and a way of being, right? It's a life that is not limited by the strictures and institutions of this world, right? It's God's reign, which is immaterial, right? And so this is like people to think about, like a specific place where we go when we die, right? The heavenly realm. But Jesus was talking about a spiritual realm. We don't know, right, whether or not this was a specific place, because according to him, the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, was actually within us, not a specific place. So something to think about, right? So he says the kingdom of heaven is like this landowner who goes in early in the morning. So he agrees with these laborers for a daily wage. He's going to pay for whatever's right. So when he went out, so he basically they come in. When he went out at noon, about 3 o'clock, he did it. 5 o'clock, he went out, found others standing around. He did the same. So he takes. So then at noon, at 3, at 5, he takes people who are wanting to work. Right? Why are you standing idly? Because no one's hired us, so he brings them in. When those hired at 5 o'clock came, each received the usual daily wage. Now, when the first came, they thought they received more, but each of them also received the usual daily wage. And when they received it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying, "These last worked only an hour, but you gave them equal to what you gave us." But he replied to one of them, "Listen, I'm doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a usual daily wage? Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give to this last the same as I give to you. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Or are you envious because I am generous? So the last will be first, and the first shall be last." So what West and Zwanyier are asking, right, us to think about is if we read with and think with these South Africans, right, who are themselves are day laborers, right? What happens when we think with them? Will we read this as Jesus representing a capitalist sort of paradigm or representing a socialist paradigm? And that's the big question, right? In the next video, we'll discuss it.